It was 1987 when the World Cup was played in India and Pakistan jointly, and the quarterfinals match between West Indies and Pakistan. West Indies batted first. Pakistan was into the play. They were into the last wicket. Abdul Qadir and Wasim Jafar were at the crease, and the great West Indian pace bowler, the first pace bowler in the world to have 500 test wickets in his kitty, Courtney Walsh, was bowling. And Walsh, at the end of his run-up towards the crease, was just about to put the ball. And Wasim Jafar left the crease for a quick single, whether the ball corrects the bat of the batsman or not. Abdul Qadir was at the striking end. Wasim Jafar at the non-striking end. Courtney Walsh did not bowl. He asked Wasim Jafar to get back into the crease. See, he had a choice. He could have run out him, which is popularly known in cricket as mankad. He could have done that, but he did not. He asked Wasim Jafar to get back into the crease and went back to his run-up. He bowled. On this side, West Indies needed 1 wicket to win the quarterfinals and enter into the semi-finals. On the other side, Pakistan needed just 2 runs to enter the semi-finals. They scored it. For the first time in the history of World Cup, West Indies was out of the World Cup in the preliminary rounds. When he was walking back to the pavilion, 70,000 crowd at the Gaddafi Stadium rose on their feet to applaud the value, to applaud the spirit of the game that Courtney Walsh had shown. 1975, the West Indies were the champions. 1979, they were the champions. 1983, they were the final. They entered the finals. They lost against India. For the first time, they were out before the semi-final encounter. When Courtney Walsh bowled his last delivery in an international match at his hometown in Trinidad and Tobago, Australia Channel 9 prime commentator Richie Benaud said, at the end of the day when the team was coming back, seeing Courtney Walsh leading the team back, bowling his last international delivery, Richie Benaud said, "Here comes the last of the gentlemen cricketers." And thereafter, the age of match fixing and sport fixing started. Values were replaced by valuables. The age of match fixing and sport fixing. Years later, when Courtney Walsh was interviewed by BBC Cricket, he was asked that why did you prefer to make the other choice? You knew that you could have officially, legally taken your team into the semi-finals. Courtney Walsh said something which is a source of inspiration for all of us today. So high regards for values. Courtney Walsh said, "I was not raised to do that. The way in which I was raised by my parents, I was taught cricket by my coach. I cannot do that. I cannot run out a person in such a way before once giving him a warning." Again, BBC asked him because they wanted something spicy from his mouth, as normally these people want. Again, he was asked that, were you aware that this action could lead West Indies from the exit? He said, "I knew it." "Then why didn't you do it?" Again, he said, "The spirit of the game was so high valued in my heart that today when you're asking me this question, for the first time, I'm getting a thought in my mind that I had a second choice. At that time, I thought I had only one choice, and that to give the warning to the non-strikers batsman." He becomes a source of inspiration. He's a valued person. I want to share another incident with you. You might all have heard the name of Maradona, the great footballer. All have heard the name of Michel Platini, the great French footballer. In 1986, Maradona led Argentina to a World Cup victory. In 1990, the World Football, that is FIFA, they decided to have a charity match, the proceeds of which will go forward to help those footballers who had not earned enough, or those footballers' children, for better education. So a charity match was decided. One team was led by Maradona. The other team was led by Michel Platini. Along with that, they had thought of this as well, to induce some more values in the lives of footballers, especially against corruption and against drugs. So Maradona and his team, they had worn a t-shirt, "Say no to drugs." Michel Platini and his team had worn the t-shirt, "Say no to corruption." In between them, as the match referee, was the great Pelé of Brazil. The match was played in a packed stadium. They must have collected hundreds of thousands of dollars, well distributed for the purposes for which the charity match was played. A few years later, Maradona was caught possessing drugs, intake of drugs, and he was suspended from football for 6 months. He could not stand the value for which he once stood just because of attraction towards valuables. In 2015, Michel Platini was banned for life from holding any post in football in any club. You don't have to step on the football ground on the charges that the ethics committee of FIFA had put on him and proved the charges of corruption of said perhaps more than 5 million euros. So even Michel Platini could not stand by the values that he once stood for. Say no for corruption. Both of them failed. And today, they are not an inspiration for the youth. Today, we don't remember them with that regards that we remember Courtney Walsh. What I mean to say is, to think of values, to live by values, and to sustain those values in your hearts and minds, lifetime, which ultimately becomes your character, is definitely a challenge. But when we hear of such happenings in the society, we are definitely inclined towards living a value-based life, because values that don't hold the power to hold your life together when you fail on values. Valuables don't hold the power to hold your life together when you fail on values. Do you agree with me? And on the other side, values, they hold the power to bring your life back on track when you have lost valuables. This is the big difference between values and valuables. Values have the power to make you immortal, as Courtney Walsh is an immortal personality, not just in the game, but at the same time, through ages. Till the sun and the moon shines upon this earth, Courtney Walsh would be remembered. Many such incidents in lives of many public figures. But this is a clear aspect of life, that values can make your life, valuables break your life. I sometimes jokingly say, in a lighter moment, that even if you are the king of the skies, you have to leave India without an Indian passport if you lose on values. Even if you have become the Sahara of thousands of families and given them homes, you can still lie Be-Sahara in Tihar for 4 years if you lose on values. If you play to de-shape overshine or undershine a cricket ball, you definitely incur a life ban on yourself. You know the names, so I'm not calling out the names. Those people who tried to deshape, overshine, or undershine the cricket ball, they had to leave cricket. Yes or no? Those who played with the banks, they had to leave the country. A few are in London, a couple of them in the Caribbean. They'll all be brought back. Values are the most important assets of your life. Values have the power to create valuables. Valuables don't stand the power to create values. So Stephen Covey, in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, writes that imagine you are dead. Your near and dear ones, friends are around you. And if God graces you the power to listen while you are dead, what would you like to listen about yourself from your near and dear ones or the people who work with you, people who associated with you? To hear that after your death, your whole life of 60, 70, 80 years, you have to live on values. Money can buy you a good bed, but it does not have the capacity to give you a good sleep. Isn't it? Money can buy you a good house. It does not have the capacity to turn that house into a home. Money can buy you the best of jewelry and branded clothes. It does not have the power to give you handsomeness and beauty. Money can buy you a good healthcare plan. It does not have the power to give you health. So if there are 100 things that money can buy, there are 1,000 things that money cannot buy. Still, you need it to become happy. This is the power of values.